The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com. Hello, and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's Friday, January 24th, episode 72. Today, we'll talk about the Tesla Model Y on sale. Well, you can at least get your order in, at least. And we'll talk about it where you are and discuss if it's worth the price hike. We'll talk about the new Renault 5 and Alpine version. And Volvo give the EX30 a cross-country vibe. And, of course, much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee, from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining me today is top man Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And can we just say, joining us from a mystery location in Europe after a mega flight and not a lot of sleep. So, Tom, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here, guys.
And we are getting into buying EVs today. And would you buy the new Model Y? So we thought we'd invite on someone who sells EVs for a living and has a great YouTube channel as well, Nick Ramo, a.k.a. EV Nick. Welcome along. First time in a year's time you're back on the show, Nick. Good to have you.
I think it's exactly a year since you picked your car up, Martin, from me.
That's right. Yeah, you sold me a Polestar too. I was very happy about it as well. And that was about a year ago, exactly a year ago. Thoroughly enjoyed driving the Polestar 2 for the last year. We'll hang on to it for a little bit longer. But let's get into it today, though. So the Tesla Model Y was the world's biggest selling electric vehicle in 2023. It's got global sales of about 1.2 million in that year. Last year, don't know the final wash-up numbers of 2024. Tesla don't tell us, registration details, things like that. But we know 400,000 units or so in the US, about 370,000. It's Europe's best-selling EV, and to date, they've sold about 4 million to 4.5 million Model Ys. We don't know the exact number yet because of 2024's wash-up. It is the most important electric vehicle in the world. Channeling my inner Clarkson there. And now we have all the details about the new one, so-called Project Juniper, codename Juniper. It's faster. It goes further on the same amount of energy. And it's still not great at charging. And it's a lot more expensive in launch trim. For various reasons, we'll get into it. So let's have a look at the press release that came out earlier today. I woke up to this, actually, today. I've just removed the person who sent it to me from the top of the PDF there. I don't want that going out, but Tesla do have PR people, and they haven't got PR in their name. But we've seen a bunch of videos today. Kyle is, I think, perhaps in Abu Dhabi at the Yas Marina circuit. We don't know where he is, but he's travelled from China, where China's, don't call them PR people at Tesla, arranged for a great video for him. It's over an hour long because it's Kyle, and he was getting kicked out by the end, but he carried on going. It's great. It's the most watched Model Y video on the internet today. Thomas Ottergaful had one at a Berlin studio. The Fully Charged team here in the UK had one in a UK studio. And so, yeah, of course, we do get, it's wonderful that we do get briefed. Just don't tell Elon that they employ PR people. They've all got different job titles. So I've taken that chap's name off of this one. Nearly 5 years ago, this press release says the first Model Y units were delivered to their new owners, making the debut of a global bestseller. Today, Tesla is introducing the new Model Y. The press release goes on to say the new Model Y features extensive re-engineering, maximizing efficiency, comfort, connectivity, and safety, with a completely redesigned interior and exterior. Model Y is a global bestseller, they say, produced in over 3.5 million units in Tesla's gigafactories in 3 continents since day one. Model Y has been praised globally for its versatility, ease of use, practicality, safety, efficiency, and accessible price point. It has always been sold, well, more recently as well, it's been on sale a long time, of course, at very good prices. I will just scroll down to some of the new things in the vehicle. They talk about the new design. Of course, it's got that new front end and new rear end as well. The exterior design is, obviously the most noticeable thing when you look at the pictures, but I guess we'll have to make our own minds up when we see them in person. A new front camera is now available, says the press release, located in the front fascia, offering drivers an expanded view of the surroundings on the center screen, and is equipped with a fluid washer and integrated heating to prevent fogging and defrosting in cold weather conditions. That's all very good. I don't think that camera is used for any of the ADAS stuff, but I could be corrected. I think that is just something that they've added in for more usability. Inside the Model Y, they talk about more durable materials, aluminium and textiles, while customizable ambient lighting. So a lot of those things in the Model 3 are coming across. New acoustic glass makes it quieter. Road noise is reduced by 22%, they say. Impact noise by 20%. Wind noise by 20%. New low-E glass reflects 26% more solar energy. So that is, has obviously got the panoramic roof, but is not always a good thing in very hot climates, but they're doing the best they can. You can, of course, get the aftermarket third-party shades and things like that if you need to. New front seats, you've seen them in Model 3. They're very, very good, all redesigned. New center console with all the extra storage and the phone charger. Still not cooled phone chargers, but that's okay. Second-row passengers, says the press release, can now enjoy their own 8-inch touchscreen featuring integrated climate controls and entertainment options, including gaming, audio, and video. And I think that's about as far as I want to go down before showing too much of this email. But it's fantastic to see a bunch of iterative improvements. I think we can call them iterative improvements. Now, the next thing I want to do is bring up Tesla's various websites around the world and to have a look at how they're doing it, because this is a complete change of how they've ever launched a new model before. Of course, they've launched replacements to Model 3. They've upgraded the S and the X over the years, but they've never, ever done it like this. So I'm on the US website. I better check where I am right now. So I'm on the US website right now, and this is a complete change for Tesla. So I'll just double check. Yeah, I'm in the United States. And go Model Y order. So when you go to the Model Y order page now, they are listing both of them. They haven't taken Model Y off sale. I've seen, again, they've called it Legacy in some cases, otherwise they've just called it Model Y, and they've called it New Model Y. So if you look on screen for our video viewers right now, they are listing all of the versions you can buy. They haven't taken the old one off sale, is I guess short version of what I was trying to say. So they've still got the long-range rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive and performance, plus they've added what they're calling Launch Series. Now, I'll change the pricing over to cash because obviously we want to do that. Look at the headline pricing. I don't want to take off the various savings, gas savings and federal tax credit of which this is eligible. And so we have a headline price of $59,990. There are some extra fees and deliveries on this, but we'll start with the US pricing as most of our audience are in the US. So this is a new way for Tesla to launch a new model, to leave the old one on sale. And I can flick between them, really. Long-range all-wheel drive and new Model Y, long-range all-wheel drive. And I've got to be honest, new shiny thing addiction. We all like new toys. Just flicking between them, now that we see them together on the same page, I can't help but think the new one looks so fresh, so modern, with the light bar across the front and the rear as well. We can get that rear view. And you flick between them, and all of a sudden, the old one, as I flick from the old, for our audio listeners, for the explaining what I'm doing, is moving between the same view of the old one and the new one. You can sort of flick between them. All of a sudden, the old one feels, well, kind of yesterday's news. But they've left it on sale because the pricing is very different. Now, this new launch model, the launch series, as I should say, does come bundled with everything that you want. So you can change the color without affecting the price of $60,000. It's about $62 by the time you add everything in. And you think, well, I'll have it in ultra red because that's the most expensive color, and it comes with all the colors. You don't have to have the crossflow wheels. You can go the Helix wheel, so I'll flick to those. It's the 20-inch Helix, although the ride will get a bit worse. And you think, well, I probably want a tow hitch on there because why not? You want the white interior. because why not? And it does come with full self-driving supervised for $60,000. And we'll get into some of the European specs in a minute. By the way, it's £60,000 and you get no ADAS feature, autonomy features, I say, autopilot and things, because we haven't got it over here. So it's 60 grand, which is like $75,000 without any of that. So when you add all those in, it's not such a bad deal if you wanted FSD supervised anyway. Now, I've gone on for a good 10 minutes, so we're going to go straight to our guests. Tom, I'll come to you. First of all, what do you think of the pricing that they've given it? What do you think the way that they're doing it, which is to offer both for sale? And what do you think about comparing the old and the new versions?
Yeah, so agree with you 100% as far as when you flip back and forth, it really it shows that the existing model there, it's a little long in the tooth styling wise, and it really struck me in the beginning when you said it's been on sale for just about 5 years now. That's, God, they say how fast time flies. I wouldn't have thought that. If I stopped to think about it, I would have said, yeah, probably. But, it just doesn't seem like the Y's been here for 5 years, but it has been. And it is the style is definitely, I never liked it in the beginning, quite honestly. And I think the new version addressed some of the things I didn't like about it. With the one caveat, in the rear, it's odd that they moved the license plate down below the rear hatch, whereas in the previous version, the license plate was up higher. In the pictures that I've seen, it looks like the license plate should have remained up kind of in the middle of where the rear hatch opens. It looks odd. It looks too like there's just like it's a big billboard on the back. But other than that, I think the styling, the light bar in the front looks awesome. And I really like I hope that they've improved the NVH. You said that 20% improvement on this and 15% improvement on that. And that was my biggest knock on the Y was the ride harshness, the fact that it really wasn't very quiet inside compared to the other electric vehicles. It was very quiet compared to a combustion vehicle, but it didn't have the great ride quality. It was a little harsh. It was a little louder than the Ioniq 5, Mustang Mach-E, the vehicles that it's up against. So if hopefully they made those improvements. So we drive them. I like the way the interior looks. This isn't a giant step forward by any means. They didn't, and give it an 800-volt architecture or, improve some of the things that I think some people were hoping for. But I didn't expect that with this. This is kind of what we expected. I think it looks nice. Price-wise, I wish they didn't force the launch edition down your throat and order a cheaper version, but I understand why they're doing that because there's a lot of pent-up demand for this. People are going to, they're going to sell a lot at this top dollar, and I'm sure, by April or whatever, you're going to be able to get lower versions that aren't all fully loaded like this. But even at that price, if you compare the like vehicles, electric vehicles from other manufacturers, it's a deal. It still is. There's a reason why the Y was the number one selling vehicle. It's a really great vehicle, and it value. You get a lot of value with it, even at this higher end there at 60,000. Load up a Mustang Mach-E, for instance. I was mentioning that vehicle. And see where you're at. And the Y does a lot of things better than the Mustang Mach-E. I like Mustang Mach-E styling better. I like the interior better personally. But the Y does a lot of things better than the Mach-E. So yeah, I think they did a nice job with this refresh.
So Elon's politics turned me off, says Walter, as one of the comments. And that's interesting because obviously, Nick, you joined me from the UK, although a few hours from where I am, and you and I have talked about it, that you can't really take away the leader of the company and how famous he is and what he says with the vehicle. Well, I mean, I was going to get onto this a little bit later, but I'll mention it to you, now, and you can have your say on the vehicle and what, whether you think people even care about who the CEO is. It is different to the CEO of other car companies, though. And, over here, he has attacked the UK more recently. He's obviously been attacking, the Germans. They got big union fights in the Nordics. And so I don't know how much of that even plays in. Some of the YouTube videos today gently addressed it. Thomas Ortegaful said, the politics could come into it. I mean, obviously he's in Germany, where there's some very public backlash against some of the things that Elon has done and made reference to. And I'm not going to pretend to make a comment about Elon South African. I'm not going to talk about apartheid. And I hope that his knowledge of how sensitive sort of war gestures are still, all this time later, certainly in Germany, I have German friends. It changed over generations, but certainly it's a very sensitive subject. And, Ortegaful called it trolling. Like, he's a trolling CEO. I think it was generous, bearing in mind they got early access to the vehicle to get their video out this morning, published and edited. And in those situations, you've always got PR people standing just behind the camera, eyeballing you, every word that you're saying. And even then, if they didn't, and you published a video being very critical, you might not get invited back. So they were gentle with it. Obviously, Carl didn't talk. He was in China. Didn't talk about those issues, but gently talked about how it's still basically the same car, charges the same battery, 82 kilowatt hour, gross 78, 79 you get out of it. The curve is pretty bad on those vehicles. Different batteries around the world. On the Model Y, must admit. So some of the criticism that I've seen in the comments already, I think is probably based on where you are around the world. But I see both arguments, really, of no one cares what the CEO thinks, but also he's not a normal car CEO. He has this huge elevated profile. And then I get a bit frustrated that overshadows the product, the thing that we should be talking about today. Let's get onto that first, Nick. You've waited very patiently. What do you think of this refreshed Model Y? How big a deal is it?
It's really funny how the Chinese manufacturers were copying Tesla and other manufacturers. If you bring it back up again, is it me or does it look like Tesla are now copying the Chinese manufacturers in their styling? It looks very much BYD styling to me, that new car. That light bar at the front, light bar at the back. It's starting to copy much more of the... I mean, maybe it's just because the Model Y hasn't been refreshed that long. That is the new styling of cars, and Tesla have just caught up. But it does feel that, it just seems a bit copy of the American stuff. Regarding, I think the UK, it's only sold in 2 colours at the moment, the launch edition. But I'm sure someone said it was only 2 colours. Yeah. And someone brought up the LFP NMC chemistry thing. The reason it's NMC, LFP just doesn't get the performance for what the performance model would want to kick out on the C rate. So that's why it's NMC. You just can't get that performance kickoff. So you'll probably find that the standard range will be the LFP chemistry. It's nice to see that they brought wipers, a wiper stalk and
indicators. The indicator stalk is back. I haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, it's nice to see that's finally back because everyone, Tesla fanboys have said, "Oh, no, you never need it, you never need it, you never need it," and they brought it back. I mean, probably not so much in the American market. I mean, I've driven it over here and it's fine until you hit a roundabout, and that's where in the UK it's a bit of a problem. Regarding Elon's backlash, I know a couple of creators that were down there and they've released videos this morning when the embargo was lifted, and they've actually seen here in Europe a lot of unsubscribes from their channel for even covering the car. So especially here in Europe, I mean, Tom can tell us about the US, but there's definitely much more resistance to Elon's politics over here than there is probably in the States.
It is a strange one. Sorry, Nick's mic is a little quiet. I can't seem to make it louder. Sorry about that. It just keeps going back to like auto mic in StreamYard. I keep taking it off, and it keeps coming back to like the lowest volume. So sorry, but I'll try and do what I can. Sorry, Tom. Anyway.
Yeah. So Nick, talking about, I think you mentioned, and I'm sorry because I was having a hard time hearing you. With my laptop here isn't the best setup I have. I think you said that the people in Europe are a little more sensitive to Elon's what he's doing now, or that's I really don't want him to turn this into an Elon fest, but we'll address it quickly. The country's very divided. I think everybody accepts that. It seems like it's nearly 50-50 where politically that the people that are in support of the current president Trump love Elon and will support him, and there's a good equal size amount of people that don't and can't understand why Elon is doing what he's doing, and it's going to hurt the company. There's no way around it. We see in the comment section here I don't know how many people have already said, forget about it. I'll never buy another Tesla. Tesla lost a good customer. On my channel, on State of Charge, I can't tell you, hundreds and hundreds of comments of people saying, I hope you don't even cover Tesla anymore. I don't want anything to do with him or the company. But, I don't want to turn this into political, because there's people that love him and support him, and there's people that don't like him. Simon had a great point earlier and said that, Henry Ford was a full-on Nazi, and people still bought the Model A, so, I'd rather just try to talk about the car. People can buy it if they want to buy it. We'll really, dive into what we think the car is, and let you guys decide if you want to include, the politics of the CEO. I can tell you, I bet you that a lot of CEOs have a lot of political views that most of us would hate if we knew them. But the fact is that Elon's so open and letting everybody know exactly what he feels and what he stands on every issue. It's, I prefer the CEOs that I don't want to know their position on the issues, but that doesn't make them better people than Elon, just because they're quiet about it. But in any event, Tesla is going to be hurt. There's absolutely no way around it by how Elon, you want to say, people say Elon went full Elon this year in 2024. But the car itself, while it's not a major step forward in my view, I think they did a great job with the refresh. Of course, there's things they could have done better. But then it probably would have made it cost dramatically more, and keeping the price down, I think, is paramount. They could have added the 800-volt architecture, improved the charging curve, which they probably could have done that without it being too big of a cost. That's my biggest disappointment, that they really didn't have it charge better. You don't have to have an 800-volt architecture to make the Model Y charge better. Their engineers could have figured a way out with their current battery. But, and Kyle, just as I said that, Kyle said they just need to make it charge better. And so we're actually one of those few times that Kyle and I are perfectly in line, because in my mind, they did everything so well. I like that they have the stock. They kept the stock on there. If it would DC fast charge better, I think they'd have a complete package. So, and I'm interested to see what the price is going to be once the launch edition is gone, and you can get lower trim versions. It's even with X amount of the population saying I'll never buy another Tesla, they're going to sell a hell of a lot of these, I think, because it seems like it's a really good all-around vehicle. And there's a lot of people that don't give a damn what the CEO thinks. They want to get the car that's best for them, that fits their budget, and they'll, that's what they'll make their decision on. And those people will buy a Model Y because it's a damn good car at a pretty good price.
Absolutely. And so we'll get onto some of the internal features that I really, really like. Now, one of those in Kyle's video where he shows the, I've gone too far, is the seats. So the motorized rear seats. So, loads of storage in the back. What is this? 170,000 views. I watched it when I woke up this morning. Oh, 270,000 now. This is absolute. This video is blowing up because, the comms team in China did a real good thing by getting these cars available to Kyle, and Alyssa did an amazing job filming it as well. All the little intricate details. She's an EV nerd too, because you can just tell where she zooms the camera into things that you'd want to look at. You're like, oh man, that's perfect. So these seats fold down from buttons at the back. They are motorized, and also they come up as well, and they're motorized up. So things like that, which are a premium feature on other vehicles, Tesla are getting into that. And also when the rear seats fold down, the front seats move, it's the backrest pivots forward slightly. And Carl showed in his video that he sat in the front seat, reclined is the word I'm looking for, reclined the driver's seat all the way back, and then from the screen tried to lower the rear seats with electronically, and it comes up with a little warning, which are really, really nice thing to have to say, hey, we're about to move your seat forward. I can't remember whether when the back seat then came down, it then took you back to the position you were in. I forget. But either way, things like that are nice premium features that I feel like the car has matured. I feel like it's been designed. You can see in this shot we're showing on screen, the passenger seat, it's a left-hand drive version car, just moves forward slightly just to give the headrest of the rear seat room to come down, and then it moves back again. Really, really nice. And again, material choice looks really good, and I've said this before, it's why I bought the Polestar 2 over a Model Y or a Model 3 last year. When I cross-shopped both of them, I felt like the Polestar somebody had designed it. Like a team of humans had gone, how do we design something? And it's why I like Apple products, right? And so the Model 3 and the Y, engineering-wise, were better, but I don't see the engineering. I don't drive very fast. I don't DC fast charge very often. And the things that I do every day, which is run errands for my 2 kids, just the little things that you touch and see, and the fabrics. And the Volvo way, it suits me way more, but that's why we have a choice of things to buy, right? And I'm not criticizing Tesla. There was just nothing in it to fall in love with. And Polestar has things wrong with it, but I felt like it had been designed. With this vehicle, it feels like someone has really taken care over nice touches, great material choice, and the lighting inside as well, and other things like this. The middle section of the rear seat completely not just a ski hatch, but it's a 60-40 split as it back with the middle bit folds down completely. Just things like that. Nice design choices, iterating better and better all the time. I'm not going to turn into a Tesla fanboy on this podcast, I promise, but I'm really, really impressed with things like that. And it was the labeling of Teslas as, we're premium vehicles. Well, it's premium pricing, but if you haven't been in other premium vehicles, you might think it is. But Tesla's not a premium vehicle until you get in something like this, and they've added really nice touches. Yes, they've put the stalk back in for the indicators. They have said in the press release that this was about, I mean, pop Nick back in the stream, that this was about the SUV is the family car that they make, and families want that. Okay, I don't really know how that makes sense. But they've said, well, Model Y's family car, and families want stalks. Yeah, if you drive in the UK or France or anywhere there's roundabouts, you can do it with the buttons on the wheel with the Model 3. It's a faff and you get used to it. Your muscle memory retrains, but stalk, much better, perfect. Obviously the gear change on the screen, but that works really well. If you are doing a 3-point turn or you're parked up against a wall, the Tesla system is really, really good. It's just, you get used to it very quickly. It's kind of lazy driving. You just get used to the car knowing that you're about to reverse, and it puts it into reverse when you start the car, put your foot on the brake. So that's all really good. Obviously in the back, you've got the screen, which is good. They haven't added a head-up display to it, which I think you would get on other premium vehicles, or obviously a driver's display. One or the other would be nice, either a head-up display or having that driver's display in competing vehicles does feel nice, but either way, missing on here. And the rest of it, I think is right. It's so little you can pick holes in this car, personally, for me. Tom, in terms of the charging, I think people are picking holes in the charging, but you mentioned it already. Do they need to, though, Tom? I mean, this car isn't about pushing the boundaries in the way that the Cybertruck, re-engineered how they're building vehicles. Obviously, S and X are more premium pricing, and so things like performance has to be high. Although this goes, 0 to 62 miles an hour, 0 to 60 miles an hour, 4.1 seconds. It's a significant, almost a second improvement, I think, on the outgoing one. How big a deal is the charging, Tom? Given that most people charge at home, but when you need to DC fast charge, you need to, if that makes sense at all. Yeah. If it had made the vehicle even more expensive, should they have gone for, even if they left it not an 800-volt system, but done something to improve the charge speed, or are they okay to leave that because that's not what this car's about?
So did they need to? No, they didn't need to. When the Y came out, it was a relatively good DC fast charging vehicle, but that's 5 years ago. So the industry has gotten better. I think it's more of a technology display, like to show, like, look, we're improving everything about the vehicle. Charging is such a big part of owning an electric vehicle that I would have liked to have seen them improve it, just to show, look, we can improve it. But is it going to change people's minds from buying it? I don't think so, because it charges quick enough on a road trip that, it's really not going to make that much of a difference, except for the extreme people that really drive all the time and they're on the road. A guy like, Brendan Flash, that seems to drive a whole lot. Kyle, forget about Kyle, but he does it more for work than just because he wants to visit, 30 states a month. So that's not that big of a deal, but I would have liked to have seen it just to show that, look, we're on this, we're improving every little aspect of the vehicle. And Tesla had always done that. They'd always seemed to just constantly make these improvements, these tiny iterations that just kept making the vehicle better. Meanwhile, the charging on the 3 and the Y have just been stagnant. Like they haven't really done much to make it improved at all. And in that regards, I'd like to, it would be nice, even if they shaved, 7 or 8 minutes off the 10 to 80% time, even 5 minutes off of it, just to show that they're working on it. But it just seems like they're content with it as it is, and that's what you're going to get on these two vehicles. But I don't think it'll prevent one person from buying it.
Yeah. The new Model Y will be available in the UK for a starting price of £61,000, and sales, I mean, I was said that, in the title I put today, it's now on sale. You can go and put your reservation down and get in the queue for one, whether that's a sale or not. Okay, we can split hairs on that. But sales technically begin in April. The first option is the Launch Series trim, also here in the UK. WLTP 553 miles, and that's WLTP standard. And so, Nick, how would the Model Y compare for your family? You got 2 young kiddos like me. Have you still got your Model 3? I know you've got an Ioniq 5 now as well. So how would the Model Y fit into your family, given that you own both a Tesla Model 3 and one of the fastest charging EVs out there, an Ioniq 5? Oh, sorry, I think, are you on mute? No, I don't know if I can hear you or not.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you now.
Right, I've gone to another mic. So, yeah, the Model 3's gone. I sold it. That's gone. So we're on Ioniq 5 only now. I mean, is there a technical reason why Tesla have not gone to the 800-volt architecture like everyone else? Because it just seems, I mean, I know Elon famously said ages ago that he doesn't believe in 800-volt architecture, but everyone's gone that way now. It just seems ridiculous that they've not caught up with what the rest of the market's doing.
And obviously people come in to buy cars from you. At what level in 2025, or what technical level are people, EV buyers have always been a little bit more, they've done their own research, as they say. They probably come in knowing a lot about a vehicle, but are people worried about things like that when they're buying used cars from you?
Charge speed definitely comes up. It's one of the main things that comes up is how long does it take to charge, and I do think that Tesla should have really concentrated on that. I mean, yes, there's a range improvement there which will obviously benefit quite a lot of people, but if you haven't, a lot of people buy Teslas because they haven't got a home charger, and that benefit of charging on the road with superchargers, and I just think that having an improved charge speed, why go to all this time of redesigning the new model, doing all these improvements, and not improving the one headline figure that people will look at, which is the charge speed?
That's interesting. And then the ride is famously bad on the Model Y. We have some pretty bad roads over here as well. We don't know the suspense.
I wouldn't say it's bad. It depends what you're used to. I mean, you're not really used to driving fun cars, Martin. You're quite let's be modest about it. You drive pretty dull cars.
Hey, stop
really
it!
Sporty.
What?
So you don't. But the Model 3 is hard on UK roads because it's got low profile tires. But if you're used to driving that kind of car, hard, soft, low profile tires, all cars drive like that. Once you go to performance, you need a hard car so it sticks better, so it glues better when you're driving it hard around country roads. And that's why it's, is it harder than some other competition cars? Yeah. But the latest Model 3 refresh I drove didn't feel hard. It felt much improved. So I expect this Model Y Jupiter to be exactly the same improvement over what previous testers have been. I expect it to be a lot comfier, a lot better suspension, hold the road a lot better. I think they got the design right. I think they got the size of the size of everything else right, and some of the new features they've added to it are fantastic. But when you're competing with cars like the Ioniq 5, which has got that headline charge speed of 800 volts, I just don't understand why Tesla just couldn't come to it.
Yeah, that would, as Mike says in the comments, would be a significant redesign, Tom.
Yeah, and so let me ask you a question. The Model Y charges 10 to 80%, which is an average, like say, recharge when you're on a road trip in 27 minutes. The 2025 Ioniq 5, which is about the same size battery, does 10 to 80% in 20 minutes. So it's a 7-minute difference on your 10 to 80%. What would you be happy with? We understand that the Ioniq 5 is an 800-volt battery system. So would you be happy if Tesla shaved that gap in half and brought the Model Y 10 to 80% to 23 minutes, 23 and a half minutes? I mean, what would people be happy with and said, oh, that was an improvement? I'm just curious because, we're not talking, 20 minutes sitting at a station. We're talking 3 or 4 minutes of a difference and people would be happy. I just, it wouldn't make a difference in my life is what I'm saying. Yeah. I could see an apartment dweller, somebody that relies solely on DC fast charging where they're doing it every week. That makes a little bit of a difference. Even 3 or 4 minutes every time you go makes a difference. But, I'm just wondering what would make people happy?
If we have time in the running order today, depending on how long we spend on Model Y, I was going to talk about the new Zeekr 007 GT, which is the name they're going to give here in Europe and the UK to the wagon version, which comes with a 5.5C battery that does 10 to 80 in 10 minutes and 30 seconds, according to the official specs. It might even be a little bit quicker. And that's a 78 kilowatt or 75 kilowatt hour battery. So smaller, a 10-minute charge to get to 80%. Ridiculous technology. Would anybody not buy a Tesla just because there's this great Chinese technology out there? I don't know. I think, Tom, you're right. I'm not sure purchasing decisions are massively affected by stuff like this compared to the pricing of the vehicle. There's probably a wider point. People like, the three of us and everyone listening and watching that get interested in who's in the lead with this various, in this sector or in this powertrain or in this segment and which company's doing best. So we like to talk about those things. The average buyer, I don't know if they really care. As long as the car is competitive, it surely just comes down to price and financing and all those things. I think it's amazing what's in China at the moment. No one's talking about it. And we are getting left behind. But you don't know what you don't know. So no one's going to know about it apart from viewers of this show. A quick look at the UK pricing. I think I'm on UK. So deliveries begin May, according to Tesla's UK site. A little bar at the top, which has come down now. Limited inventory Model Y available. View inventory. They're calling it either Legacy Model Y or just Model Y. Actually, not huge discounts. £3,000 maybe for the old version, which is which is fine. Let's have a look at the new Model Y, as it is officially called, new Model Y Launch Edition. Let me change it away from financing prices, because that's just frustrating that it defaults to that, because I was on the cash page earlier. So £61,000 sterling versus 52 for the outgoing one. But, like I say, you wouldn't have it in black. You'd have it in that the Quicksilver. 2 colours here in the UK. We haven't got the cool blue colour yet. And only one choice of wheels. So only the 20-inch Helix wheels as well. And
just
the tow
one thing
hitches.
to raise for any UK buyers who are thinking, oh, I'll wait until the launch comes out and then maybe buy the leftover legacy models. Just bear in mind that if you don't buy your EV and it's not registered before the 1st of April, you will have luxury road tax on that for the next 5 years. So if you do want a legacy model, you're going to save £500 a year just on luxury road tax if you unless you register it before April.
That's a good shout. Yeah, $2,500 saving that you'll make over the course of owning that vehicle if you have it a long time. So yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, included basic autopilot, enhanced autopilot. I think is the sweet spot. It's the killer deal. $3,500, and that will do everything that it can. You can give them your money if you want to, and give them an interest-free loan on full self-driving. You shouldn't do, because it doesn't do anything over here, and you should probably just get enhanced autopilot, but it comes with basic. So £61,000, which again is about what, $75,000 without FSD supervised, but it doesn't do anything over here anyway because they not allowed to, and so that's not a killer deal. That is very expensive. And the same, I can just quickly pop for our German listeners as well. I'm not going to go all around the houses and go around Europe, but where is Tesla.com/Deutschland? There we go. And again, it's done it for me in financing. So let me go to Überweisung. My German's pretty bad. And then the launch edition, €61,000 as well. But again, very limited in terms of the specs that you can just go Quicksilver, and everything else is there. And again, none of the self-driving stuff in there. So for at least for North American, and Canadian, it's like 90,000 Canadian because of reasons. 25% tariff, I think, heading the US's way on Canadian-built cars, Mexican as well, and also I think that'll be reciprocal as well. Maybe Tesla getting in ahead of that. Massive price hikes on Tesla Canada's website this week. We won't go into that on this podcast, but that's very expensive, even Canadian. It's like late 80s, I think. So again, but you can choose all you can add all the things, choose any color, and get full self-driving and fill your boots on that one. I think this, if you can stomach the price. And there'll always be people that just want the latest toys. I'm one of them. If you can stomach the price, I think this is really, really compelling. I agree with you, Nick, on the front. Let me move forward a bit. That front view, yeah, there's something of a sort of a BYD about it, isn't there? Maybe it was designed by sort of fettled by the Chinese design team and the US team as well. I don't know, but man, the more I look at it, the more I like it. I think it's cool.
I've
Looks
got to
really
admit
cool.
that the back has got a very Tron bar feel to it, it's just the way it kind of scoops in. It's very unusual. I've never seen a light bar done like that at the back.
The spoiler, in pictures, the little spoiler reminder, it's a bit Mercedes GLC-ish. The back reminded me of Nissan Aria in the still shots. Now we get to watch our favourite YouTubers walking around the vehicles, all the various angles, the light shines on it in different sort of internal, external lighting. I think it looks original. I think it's really nice. What's happening to me? Oh my gosh. I'll have to get back on Twitter. I'll pay for the blue tick again. Elon, take my money. Okay, maybe not that much. I really like it. It's very, very, very cool. All right, we may have exhausted. I'm not sure I've gone through all the EPA Model Y 320. I'm doing three things at once. 320 miles. I'm not even sure it's EPA. I think that's just on the US site, and it says EST after estimated. 320 miles, which is up from 311 for the equivalent one. But as Tom, I'll give you the final word on this. Tesla point out 154 miles of range added, EPA equivalent, in 15 minutes. So what they're doing is they're leaning into efficiency. We haven't really talked about the efficiency here. They've got some different fluids and different lubricants inside this vehicle. Same battery pack. I mean, it's different battery packs around the world, according to where you buy the car. The old days of, what have you got? Have you got the Panasonic pack or the LG? That's all gone now. You used to be able to just sort of track the part numbers. That's all blown away. They've got a million different packs they're being used. But basically, I think I can, in a broad statement, say it's the same battery pack. I think I can say that. But it goes further. It's Tesla are all about that efficiency. And, you think, 154 miles in 15 minutes. I can kind of stomach that on a road trip. This still could well be the best EV for most people, especially if you're new, to buy. Any final thoughts, Tom, on that efficiency point?
Yeah, well, that miles, like all automakers quote, not just Tesla, based on if you plug in at a very low state of charge. Tesla will pull that 250 kilowatts, but for a very short period of time early on in the charging curve. If they would have, one of the improvements that I would have loved to see them do is do something like what Ford did with the charging curve where whenever you plug in, as long as it's below like 60% state of charge, you get a 10-minute boost of the full current that the vehicle can take in. So like my Lightning will pull 500 amps. If I plug in at 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, and it'll pull it for like 10 minutes. And so I get like that little bit of a boost. And while that won't improve the 10 to 80% curve, it improves the charging performance of anything over 10%. You know, the Model Y, I think once you get around 33% or something like that, you start doing that long gradual slope down in the charging curve. But if you could get the full power for 10 minutes when you plugged in at 30%, I think that in itself would have been a really good improvement. I like that Ford does that. The Lightning and the Mach-E aren't great charging electric vehicles by any means, neither of them. But they both do that very well. If you need a short burst just to get you an extra 50 miles, 60 miles, whatever, no matter where you plug in the charging curve, you're getting that really quickly. And I think that itself would have been a nice improvement if they could have done that.
Absolutely. In the comments, Tata says, I have already made a revelation for the Model Y. It's been a revelation to me too. Thank you. Thank you for that. On your reservation as well, for both of those things. Cool. Well, let's move on, because I know people get annoyed when we spend a long time on. Look,
it's only 45 minutes. We really haven't spent that much time on it.
At the podcast, at the beginning, I wrote that script because this is the most important vehicle in the world. It just is. If just look at the data, the stats, if we're an EV podcast, this is the most important EV in the world to talk about. But if you don't own one of these and you would like to plug your car into Tesla's Supercharger network and your charge port is on the wrong, I hate that phrase, side or place, you might need an extension cable. And you're in luck, because Tom had one in the studio last week, and even though you're not at home right now, you're in a very nice hotel room, you did put a video out all about the extension cable for non-Teslas to use the superchargers. I mean, what did you make of it? Because you did hit, a good 200 kilowatts on your Rivian when it warmed up. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I'm still a little bit worried about it. I'm not saying it's unsafe, but and it's not for everyone. But anyway, what did you make of it?
Well, the one thing you said is 100% right. It's not for everyone. It's not meant for everyone. And nobody actually needs this. This isn't like the NACS adapter where people actually really need that, to get around and be able to have access to Tesla superchargers. But there's companies. There's a few companies working on these right now. But I got an early prototype from the one that A to Z is making. It looks like they're going to be the first ones to actually bring one to market. And I've been using it actually for a couple of weeks now. I've used it a few times. I didn't make a lot of videos of it. I just did the video of the one time I was charging my Rivian there. And it's the cable that I had for the review purpose was a very long cable, 16 feet. That's not going to be what they sell. They're going to sell a 5-foot version of it. It is possible, if enough people ask for a longer version, they might sell a longer version too. But A to Z is monitoring customer requests. If enough people ask for a longer version, I believe they'll make one. But understand this: the 5-foot version should allow any vehicle to park and charge in the correct stall. Now, you might have to drape the charging cable over your hood to your charge port if you've got a big long hood like I have with the Lightning. But most vehicles, you wouldn't have to do that. But even some of the GM vehicles like Lyric that have a really long hood and the charge port is way back by the front right under, say, the rearview mirror. Those you might have to drape it across your hood, but it should reach and allow you to charge in the correct stall. And that's, yeah, Tom looks like a firefighter. I like that. There is no wrong side, Steve. Automakers can put them wherever they want to. I agree with you 100% there. But there is a wrong side if you want to charge at Tesla superchargers, because Tesla designed the stalls for their vehicles to back in and have access, really easily. That's why the cables are only about 5 or 6 feet long, and they won't reach the charge ports on most non-Tesla vehicles without parking in the stall to the left or to the right of the actual stall that you're supposed to park in. So you occupy 2 stalls. Now, I've had a lot of people say, I don't care. Elon opened up the network. I'll occupy two stalls. I don't, I have no problem doing that. Well, the problem becomes when, and happened to me recently, when you need to have two stalls open to be able to charge. So I pulled into a relatively busy Tesla Supercharger, and Tesla folks are trained to park in every other stall. And that's what there was. This was like an 8 stall, and every other stall was taken, and I couldn't get 2 stalls open to each other. And just when one person was gonna pull out, I could, they'd been there long. I was getting ready, and there was an open stall next to it. Somebody pulled in that stall, and then I had to wait for 2 other stalls. Now I could have just pulled in, and I was thinking about doing this, and just block the stall until the person to the side of me left. But that's being a real jerk. But as I was waiting and watching cars come and go, but never have 2 stalls open, I was starting to get a little frustrated. But so it's not simply so that you're not inconveniencing somebody else. This is to help you not be inconvenienced also. And also it could be useful for people trailering. They might need something even longer than 5 feet, but there's a use case for these cables, these extension cables. And then you get into the whole factor, well, are they safe? I'm not an engineer, but I play one on State of Charge sometimes. And I did interview the CEO and the engineer that is working on this cable for A to Z. And he's a former Tesla charging engineer. He's one of those 500 folks that got laid off last year when Elon purged the whole charging team. And before, he had an opportunity to get rehired by Tesla, which Tesla then rehired a good portion of those people. A to Z snatched him up, and I guess made a sweet deal, so he stayed with them. And he's working on this cable now. So he's intimately aware of how Tesla superchargers work. The liquid cooled cables we talked about. Is it dangerous because these aren't liquid cools? The cables on the charger are liquid cooled. And he explained everything in the interview, why he believes that, everything is fine. They have temperature sensors, 4 temperature sensors, 2 on each ends of the cable. One will derate the charging speed if it hits a certain, I think it's 85 C. And then there was the other one will shut off charging if a critical temperature is reached. And there's 2 of them on each side of the cable. They're being tested now in labs in China where they're going to be made. I know Amin Zator, the CEO, and also the engineer, go over to China frequently to monitor and get reports from them. They've been working on this for a year. They've redesigned it a couple times, but they're pretty locked in to where they think they're going to be now. For a while, they didn't know how much amperage that they could get it officially, let's say, safety certified for. And that's going to be 350. I know initially Amin wanted to go a little bit higher, but to go higher than 350, it would have had to have been liquid cooled. So that they actually had a system developed, like a little pump and everything that the would be powered by the charging session, and customers would have to take this little pump out and sit it on the ground next to it, and it was liquid cooling it. And they just looked at it and said, we can't ask people to do this, So 350 is pretty much going to be the highest rating I believe that anybody's going to be able to put out on one of these extension cables. We'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in the future, but that's what it seems like. All the engineers working on this say that's the most we can get, 350 amps, 1,000 volt rated. I charged my Rivian It charged exactly the same as it would have if I didn't have the extension cable, but it was cold out, and that could have been helping to cool the connector. You could see it snowing when I was doing it. So once A to Z has their production version, which is going to be 5 feet long, I will certainly fully test it out. And even if that means I have to like fly to Texas or Arizona or something and charge an EV there in super hot weather, I will. And, before this thing goes to market, I'll fully test it out on a bunch of EVs in warm weather areas to make sure that, or not to make sure, but to see how it derates. If it derates, if I'm pulling, over 200 500 amps for a certain period of time. Now, being rated at 350 amps doesn't mean as soon as you hit 350 amps, it shuts off. It will be able to handle 500 amps for a certain period of time before it heats up. I talked about this with the adapter that Kia was giving out, or I kind of made a big deal that Kia's adapter is only rating for 300 amps, 350 amps. And now I'm saying, well, I don't mind that this cable's rated for 350 amps, but I did mind that the adapter. So I could see why, and nobody's actually mentioned this yet on any of my videos, but I want to cut that off a little bit. In my opinion, there's a big difference with a third part. Both of them could be completely safe. I never said that Kia's 350 amp adapter wouldn't be safe. It's going to be safety certified. But there's a big difference in my mind with a third-party company making an accessory and selling it with a description of how it works and everything, and a major OEM giving their customers this thing for free, just mailing it to them without the customer actively making an effort to learn about it or what and understand what its limits are. So that's where I make a distinction. And also the fact that the adapter will not be, the Kia's adapter will not be compliant with UL 2252, which is going to be the safety certification for all EV charging adapters. So I have a problem with an OEM giving out a device that isn't compliant with UL safety certification. This extension cable does not fall under UL 2252. It's not an adapter. It's a cable. So it's not deficient in any official national recognized testing laboratory. So there is a difference in that. But I know I'm going to have some people say, well, you're complaining about the adapter being 350 amp rated, but now you're saying you think you're okay with this. But that's the distinction, and there is a big distinction there. So this is going to go on sale in about 4 months. It's going to cost a little under $300. They haven't locked in a price yet, but I think it's going to be $285. And I'm hoping to get the production version, soon. As soon as they have some made, I will, and I'll test it out, and we'll do a follow-up video. But this video got a lot of action. Some of my tweets on X got 40,000 views, and the video is performing well with a lot of people saying, I want one as soon as they're available.
Can it be banned by Tesla?
Of course. Yeah. When A to Z showed a video on X of them using it, one of Tesla's engineers tweeted and said, I do not approve. Don't buy this. I do not approve of it. So the CEO, Amin Zator, responded to him on X. So this was all, I actually put the tweets in my video and said, hey, give us a chance to at least show you what we were doing here. Would you, it has safety sensors in it, and, don't just throw a wet towel on it without looking at it. So Tesla actually agreed to have him send them some samples. They got the samples a while ago, and I don't know what the communication has been back and forth with A to Z. They haven't said, don't make these. They haven't told A to Z, we're going to sue you if you make them, or we're going to do a cease and desist or anything like that. All that could happen. But at this point, they've had the prototypes for months now, at least 2 months to my knowledge, and they haven't made any statement about we don't like what you're doing here. So, no statement is kind of an approval, in my opinion, because if go ahead, Nick.
Do you still need it in America on a V4? Is the V4 charger cable still not long enough?
So as of today, I think there's 18 V4 sites in the whole country. So, and
are those still too short though? Would you still need
it? Sites. So, I haven't. One just opened up near me, so I'm going to make a visit to it soon, and use and maybe make a video with my Lightning just to see how it reaches and everything. But you shouldn't have to. The V4 sites should eliminate that issue. And Tesla's also supposed to upgrade their V3s with longer cables. And I don't know how they'll fit in that loop there. They might hang out and drag on the ground or something, because the Supercharger was designed for that size cable. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but they're supposed to do that, upgrade their existing ones. So, but there's 30,000 Supercharger stalls in the US right now. It would take them years.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, how long would it take them to upgrade to V4? But I mean, it surprised me that none of the manufacturers who supply the CCS adapter for Tesla chargers didn't already build in like a little cable extension like you used to get on the old CHAdeMO cable from Tesla. I'm surprised they didn't have that, just even a meter of length built into the cable. It just seems, why didn't they think of that?
Well, I think they thought of that. And a lot of people asked me, in the comments, why can't I buy this all connected? And I asked A to Z, the engineer, that question, and I didn't get the best answer, but it was kind of, I think part of the reason. Well, he said cost number one, and part of the reason would be now it is an adapter, so now it has to be, the whole thing has to be safety certified. And I don't know if it would pass UL 2252 as a whole unit. Like A to Z is currently submitted their Typhoon Pro adapter for UL certification. And they want that UL stamp on their product, on the website, their adapter. I don't think this would I don't think it would pass the UL 2252, which is a very high standard. With the cable, I don't know. I'm just guessing here, because I agree with you. That's what I would want personally. But even if you charged me what you're going to charge me for the cable plus an adapter, I'll pay it all. Just I'd like to have the whole thing. They talked about the weight it would be. It is big, bulky, and heavy, and I could say snap that thing on that, which is another 2.5 pounds, and it might make it even more difficult to use. It's easier to take the adapter, snap it to your charge port, then connect the cable. But yeah, I would like to see a product like that myself, with it tethered to the cable.
Interesting. Okay. Right. You can go watch that video right now. It's out in the last 24 hours or so on Tom's channel, State of Charge. And don't worry, he's on his travels, but he won't be away for long. And there's some good stuff coming on State of Charge. So make sure you are subscribed. Now, let's spend the last half an hour, or however long we do, on, it might be a bit less today, on so a couple of new products. And that is some forbidden fruit for our US viewers. And that is the new Renault 5. Let me get a picture on screen and have a look at this. And this is the Renault 5 E-Tech, I think is its full name. Renault's begun accepting orders in the UK for their 5 E-Tech after a 13-month delay between letting people buy their R-Pass. Well, the R-Pass was a priority order system back in December 2023. It just gets you a place in the line, really. It's an electric super mini starting at £23,000 on a 4-year PCP, which is personal contract purchase, quite common here. Plan about 5% APR. Monthly payments would start at about £249 if you put 500 quid down. There is also interest-free financing through Renault as well. 0%, that's a killer deal because interest rates are high at the moment. Well, higher than they have been. And that starts at about £182 a month, but with a much bigger deposit. So good monthly pricing on this. And I mean, just look at it. Sorry for our audio listeners that are missing out on the YouTube version, but It just looks so gorgeous and cute, and, well, who doesn't love a super mini? Like I say, forbidden fruit for our North American audience. The Renault 5 has 2 battery sizes, 40 kilowatt hour, which is 120 brake horsepower motor, and a 52 kilowatt hour motor battery with 150 brake horsepower in it as well. 252 miles of range, so it'll go some as well. It's got bidirectionality in it. I don't know exactly what that means, but it says it's bidirectional, vehicle to load, so I'd need to have a look at what sort of plug socket and rating is on that, and it will DC charge at 100 kilowatts, because this car isn't designed for tons of DC fast charging and road tripping. This thing just looks right up our street for small car parks that we have over here, and stylish, leaning into the Renault 5 name, and unlike some things that have been revived that are, I think, naughty, using old names, Ford Capri, we're looking at you. That's not a Ford Capri, by the way. And even other things like the Renault Megane. That's not the Megane, the Scenic. That's not a Scenic. What else am I trying to think? Vauxhall Frontera, Opel Frontera. That's not a Frontera. But anyway, nothing wrong if you have that name in your locker, as it were, to recycle the odd name or two. Renault 4, Renault 5 are being recycled, and holy moly, Nick, I love the look of this. What do you think of this?
I absolutely love this car. It is the car that I want to own. It is, unfortunately, with kids I can't, but it's the car. It's just perfect, isn't it? I mean, you've got the wrong colour there. You want the yellow, but we'll let you off, Martin. But it's just superb. I mean, we'll talk. I'm sure we'll move on to it in a bit. But there's an Alpina version coming as well. But that is just a beautiful little sporty hatch. I mean, it's the replacement for the Zoe. The vehicle to load, I believe, is going to do vehicle to home. They're going to have a special dedicated charger that you have to buy with the car, and that can do some vehicle to load for the house as well as the car. It's just, I mean, there's not one thing I don't like about this car. Even the price. I so thought Renault would mess the price up on this and completely overprice it, but the price is spot on. There's the yellow. Get the yellow up, Martin.
There you go. Now, you've been making Renault videos on your YouTube channel for many years. You are the original Renault Zoe expert here in the UK. And therefore, you've seen all the highs and lows of Renault. So you've seen them when they do it well, and you've seen them sometimes when they muck it up. They took some safety stuff out of the refreshed Zoe that was just a strange one, and airbags and things like that. And they've made odd decisions over the years, but, they've absolutely got this right. Oh, it looks so good. And you're right. The yellow is the colour. Oh, man, this looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? Like you said, Renault tend to mess a lot of stuff up, and they, you saw the car; it was beautiful. The design was beautiful. I honestly thought they were going to price it so stupidly. I thought it was going to be like 35 grand, 40 grand. I mean, it starts way under 30 grand. I think the top model only hits 29,995. I think the starting model is 23,995. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just fantastic. It's just priced perfectly. It's exactly where it needs to be for what it is. I would not be surprised if some, how we've seen Cybertrucks imported over to the UK. I wouldn't be surprised if some Americans, import some Renault 5s over to the States, because it is. I mean, Tom. I mean, you guys you're back driving a massive big truck, but what do you think of these small cars over there in the States?
Well, he's here in Europe at the minute, so going to see loads of things like this.
I think there's one of these in Brussels airport. I had a connection in Brussels, and I had to run to the gate practically because I got the passport line was really long. But I think there was one of these on display in the airport. I like small cars, Nick, personally. I always had a small car. I'm sad that we don't get them here in the U.S. anymore. Small hatchbacks. I mean, one of my favorite cars was my Honda CRX that I had in the 80s. I love that thing. Tiny little two-seater, fantastic driving around the city with. So easy to just maneuver and everything. So yeah, I'd love a little car. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Kia EV3 personally, which is bigger than this, but I don't know by much. But that might be when that finally comes to the U.S. I think that might be in my garage. So I like this. This is a cool little runaround.
It gets better, may I say. It does get better because the Alpine 290. So Alpine is the sporty bit of Renault, which they go racing with, which is interesting because Alpine isn't very well known, but I think they're trying to change that. The Alpine A290 went on sale as well. Now that starts at £33,000, goes up to £38,000. That is 10 grand more expensive than the base one we just had a look at. A guy had the European Car of the Year award. Of course, this is an odd photo that I brought up with some strange sort of violet lighting on it. It's not the best colour, but I will get through the specs in a moment. What can I tell you about this? I can tell you it's 52 kilowatt hour battery is the base version, so only the big battery. 180 brake horsepower is the base one. Inside, all the same basic equipment, but they've just Alpined it and made it sporty. The GT Premium version adds Napa leather seats and blue brake calipers, and the GT Performance model will have over 215 horsepower on this. With some different telemetrics, if you want to go, I guess, and black round a track or something. It's going to have bright red brake calipers. There's also a GTS trim coming in time with these black alloy wheels and some unique elements as well with optional driving packs. But I don't know all the details on that. But they have just kind of gone to town, Alpine, with making this. It very much fun the inside. A very, very cool little hot hatch. Now, look, hot hatches were traditionally, I'm showing my age here a little bit, but, a little Peugeot or, Golf hot hatch wouldn't set you back a huge amount of money, back in the 80s or 90s. But times change, and I've got to get with the times. So £38,000 is a lot of money for a small car, but heck, let's not worry about that. Let's talk about some cool EVs. Yeah, it's some decent space in the boot, looking at the picture. This Alpine A290 also went on sale. And yes, 215 seems on the low side, says NB Volts.
What? No way!
Not for this little car. Looks amazing. Looks really cool.
The Abarth Petrols Competicianos, they're 180 brake. And in a small, tiny little car that doesn't weigh very much, even as a bit EV, it's not going to weigh a lot. That's going to fly. It's going to... the term pocket rocket comes to mind straight away. 215 is going to be nuts in a small car. I assume he's I assume he's coming from the American market and he's thinking it's a lot bigger than it is. I've got a Fiat 500 next to me here. It's on that kind of size. It's a bit bigger than a 500, the Renault 5, but we're talking that kind of size car. It's tiny. I'm in a Zoe right now, and I think it's similar size to a Zoe. That's just anything over 180 brake horsepower in a front-wheel drive car is just nuts. It's just going to...
Yeah.
Martin needs a new car for his wife, and he keeps trying to push down his budget as far as he can. I can see one of these on your drive and the wife driving the Polestar and you taking this.
That would be a very good option. But yes, we do. I won't. This podcast's not about my car buying, but we do need another one before April, because for our UK viewers, you can tax your EV now for free, but from April with the new tax year, it'll be £190 unless it was registered before the 5th of April 2017. So you can either buy a very late 2017, an early 2017 car and get away with it, and it'll go to 20 quid, or you can just stomach the £190. And as Nick said earlier, the luxury car tax, which was a 40 grand limit.
Anything over £40,000.
You pay another.
And it'll be registered. So any car registered after 1st of April 2025 will pay luxury road tax if it costs over 40 grand, including electric cars.
I think
tax about £500 a year. It's so if you're going to buy an EV, you're going to keep it 3 or 4 years. You need to buy it now and get it registered.
Yeah, it's 40 grand is not luxury anymore. You can spec an Astra over that, and that's not luxury. But maybe our government will raise that limit. And talking of small cars, because why not? And we're in that mood today. Volvo this week said that the EX30 will have a cross-country version by summer of 2025, tailored for outdoor activities. Production starts in the spring. It's a regular EX30. With details we haven't been given yet, but it'll be the all-wheel drive version of this. The twin motor performance has the 69 kilowatt hour battery that does have 422 brake horsepower and will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds. That is the quickest Volvo ever made. Cross country, they'd raise the suspension surely on that. Cross country is a name that harks back to Volvo's XC SUV models. Hasn't really been used recently by Volvo. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but saw an older models like the V40 hatchback, the V60, V90 estates as well, all had cross countries, but well, I think this looks cool. I'm not sure whether you need to stick a tyre on top of it, but I know when they've done it for the press pictures. This looks amazing as well, Nick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Volvo styling, but this is quite nice. I mean, I've quite like the look of it. What's its size? What's the size? Is this similar to kind of Model Y kind of size, or are we
talking about EX30?
No.
Have you not driven one yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Much smaller.
Tiny.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm not a big Volvo fan. I've just never liked the styling of them too much. So from a resale perspective, I've always stuck away from them.
Well, you just don't appreciate good styling. That's the thing, Nick. That's the thing. You just don't appreciate that Swedish, that sweet Swedish styling that I love so much. Although the latest Polestar 5 is a UK car engineered in the UK. Coventry. It's a beautiful place if you've never been. Book a ticket right now. It's lovely. Coventry is in the Midlands, and it's genuinely a very nice place. Lots of history there, but I think even people who live in Coventry would be like, well, it's not the Riviera. Let's also talk about the EX30 and EX90. I wasn't going to mention that today, but I've just remembered that I think we got US pricing. Electric had it this week. So US pricing on this. Let me scroll down because I was totally forgotten. EX30 comes to the US by the look of it. Just give me the price. Starts at $44,900. So the 2025 model year starts at $44,900 and going up to $46,000. Oh, there's actually a table there that I could have just gone down and had a look at that, which is I think it's good. Like, I know, Tom, you cancelled your EX30 reservation, but that looks about right.
Yeah, well, there was supposed to be the two-wheel drive version, right? That was 30. It was supposed to be $35,000, $36,000.
$35,000 car.
If they're just not bringing that to the U.S. or if they're going to introduce it later, but the delays made me step back, and that's why I got the Equinox. Going back to the cross country. When Volvo had the premiere of the EX30, it was in Milan last year. It might have been more than a year ago at this point. They had the cross country there on display, and everybody wanted to talk about it, but Volvo didn't want to talk about it because they're like, yeah, but this is going to come out a year or so after the first EX30 comes out, but it looked really cool. I got a chance to see it in person there, and I was really looking at that, even though I really don't need a cross-country version of the vehicle. It just looked really cool. So that isn't something new. They had that on the board since day one.
I didn't know that. And then the EX90 got pricing as well, starting at 18, going up to 90, between whether you want 7 seats or 6 seats. The EX90, which is again really, really beautiful car. Whether it'll find its audience, the US. I can sort of drop in the old cliches about soccer mums and things like that. They would absolutely adore. It's a real family car. This absolutely fantastic vehicle, and that's our pricing. Right, before we head off, we will leave you with the taste of a Zeekr in your mouth, and that will be the Zeekr 007 GT. Well, that's what it's called when it's coming here. Let me find you a picture for our YouTube viewers and pop that on screen because, well, I got to be honest, I'm kind of in love. The Zeekr 007 GT is a wagon. It'll debut in China in Q2 of this year, but then it will come to Europe and the UK as well, right-hand drive markets. We can't wait to get some Zeekrs. Been waiting a long time. The Zeekr brand is present in several European countries already, like the Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden. In Europe, the wagon market has some limited options. Of course, the MG5 has been on sale for a pretty long time. Mum's got an MG5. That's coming to the end of its 3-year finance deal, and I think they'd have another one, the more modern one. This is going to have the second generation battery, which sometimes I kind of think the Chinese companies could just get a little bit of Western influence on the names. They've called it the golden brick battery, and it's a common phrase that if you brick a battery, it's dead. And yet they've called it the brick battery. But anyway, they can do what they want. But I would have sort of think of a different name for it than the brick battery. But anyway, lithium iron phosphate, 5.5C charge rate. It's ridiculous. Like I said earlier, 10 to 80% in 10.5 minutes. So don't sit down, because you're back on your way again. That's at least, for the wagon specs, which I think would be the same as the sedan. I think the sedan maybe charges a little bit slower than that. 75 kilowatt hour battery. There is a 100 kilowatt hour Kirin battery that comes from CATL. Also likely for this. The platform will take it. And, that would do, 800 kilometers or so on the single motor version. 800 volt architecture. This thing's built on more forbidden fruit for our American viewers. I'm sorry about that, but the golden brick battery will deliver a 0 to 62 miles an hour time of 5.1 seconds. The Kirin batteries from CATL will do it a bit quicker than that. There'll be a dual motor high performance version as well. Obviously all the toys in this, big screens, 35-inch augmented reality head-up display. I know. Hey, I can't wait to see this in person. Love vehicles like this. In China, I know you can't really say that, but it does start at $29,000 equivalent, going up to 41,000. European pricing's always higher. But if this was, what do you reckon, Nick? £50,000 car? No, more.
No, it'll be less than that.
Less?
Yeah.
No, it won't. Not with all the tech. It won't be less than 50 grand.
I reckon they'll have an entry model less than that. Well, what's it selling for in the rest of Europe at the moment?
I haven't got European pricing because it's just been announced.
What? I mean, it's one of the best. I hate estate cars. I hate the look of estate.
I'm so sorry for bringing him on today.
Wait, I'd own one of them. That's beautiful. That's the best looking estate car I've ever seen. That is the nicest looking sportback I have seen for a very long time. It actually looks like a car. It's got a saloon look. The side view of it, that looks like a saloon. It doesn't look like a sportback. That's the best. That's the best looking sportback I have ever seen. And what's the chemistry of the batteries? Is it LFP, NMC?
Yeah, so LFP for the really quick charging one, and then there's an NMC pack, which is a little bit slower, I think.
Yeah, I mean, most manufacturers usually can play an LFP hasn't got the C rate to charge fast. So how on earth they're getting that charge rate out of that, I do not know. That's
they have now. They happen to BYD have now, and they're calling this, like I say, the Zeekr golden brick or golden. I just call it the golden battery. And yeah, I mean they have now. They've really worked out how to get some juice into these batteries. It's just next level. It's beyond next level. And it's beautiful as well.
I can tell you now, if they make a low spec version of that under 40k, that will be the new taxi in the UK. You will see taxi drivers buy that everywhere. With that charge rate, it'll just be the best taxi you could possibly get. Plenty of space for suitcases, fast charging for them. They don't have to rely on home charger, and it's good looking. I mean, that is a really. What have we got any pictures inside the boot, the interior?
I mean, I can show you what the sedan version looks like. I'll find some pictures of that before we go here. Tom's thoughts on this, Zeekr?
I think it looks great, and what just keeps going through my mind as we're doing this is how we're toast. It's like some of these vehicles in China look fantastic. They have ridiculous specs. They cost 30% less than what a comparable vehicle would cost if it was made in Europe or the US. How do you compete with that? And guys, they just got started. Like, give them 5 more years. It's scary. I can't wait to talk to Kyle. Maybe he'll be on next week. He's been doing a crazy amount of traveling, but because he just spent a lot of time over in China, so he really got his hands on these vehicles for the first time. And I'm interested to hear what he has to say, because I've been to China a bunch of times. And I kept saying it 4 or 5 years ago, like, I can't believe how good they're getting and how quickly they're getting good. Like, that's the amazing thing. The China speed is just crazy. It's like they go from crawling to running at full speed in a snap of a finger. And it's going to be interesting what the automotive world looks like in 10 years. It really is.
Yeah, I
mean,
saw a headline about 80,000, employees or something at someone like BYD, one of the big ones. And then I reread it, and it was like 80,000 new employees this year on 2024 working in their R&D department. And you go, well, how does any tech or car company compete with that level of hiring? I mean, you can't. The answer is you can't. You could be lightweight.
I remember an old Top Gear episode about 15, maybe 20 years ago when Clarkson was still on it, and they had Chinese cars on it, and they went, these are rubbish, but the Chinese car market's just started. And then that was 15, 20 years ago, and they said the cars were awful, and then Clarkson went, yeah, but they've just started. Imagine what they're going to be like in like 10, 15 years from now, and we're seeing that rapid growth. The question is, obviously, you Americans are not going to see it definitely for the next 5 years with Trump's stance on China. And the European market is starting to try and protect its European market similar to the US with tariffs going on a lot of the cars. It'd be interesting to see here in the UK if we follow suit with tariffs against China, because we seem to want to open up our market for trading. So it'd be interesting to see what it does come to here in the UK, and if there will be any tariffs implied on it to the rest of the Europe, because I know the European car market is very, very worried that they can't compete. So
yeah, and and it's a story that if you work in the automotive industry or in the supply chain, you are massively familiar with this story. But for many people who just love learning about cars and buying cars and driving cars, I'm not sure it's a story that is fully appreciated by many people, that it's really scary if you're working in an existing large car company, or even some of the Western startups, just how much China are spending, for good and bad on that. Simon says that can't be right if you think about it. I think you're talking about how many new people BYD employed last year. I'll try and correct myself before the end of the podcast. So there you go, Nick. That's the 007, and there's a presentation shot. I'll bring it up on screen of that 5.5C charge rate, 10.5 minutes, 0 to 6, 10 to 80.
I know you said the name the battery right, but they've named the car right. 007. It fits perfectly. It does look like a sleek car that James Bond would drive. It has got that 007 look to it. Oh, that is nice. That
nice really inside, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No Chinese cars, it will have massage seats, heated seats, cooled seats, and all the toys. I'm surprised they've not got a panoramic roof on that. That has surprised me, because that would look beautiful with just a glass roof. But it scares me as a car dealer how far China have come. The one thing I've noticed over here, though, used buyers are a little bit more resilient about buying used Chinese cars, even the MGs and stuff. Different new, because people are looking at the price they can afford new on salary sacrifice and company car schemes, but used buyers tend to be a little bit more reserved about when buying used Chinese cars.
So let me bring up the different tab I have here for Simon, whose mind might have been slightly blown by that. And I can just change screens before we head off. Share this tab. BYD has over 1 million people working at it. And they have 11 different R&D institutes, as they call them, departments, if you like. And 110,000 engineers working in their R&D department alone now. Where is this? The Wang Changfu, the founder and chairman, shared that BYD now has over 1 million employees, 11 institutes, and 110,000 engineers. Many of those. Okay, so yeah, many of those might be graduates. They might be very young people that they're working in. The wages are going to be different and all those things. I'm not getting into that now. I'm just saying that when you add tens of thousands of engineers in a year, the progress you're going to make is insanely fast.
I don't think anyone in Europe or the US appreciates how large BYD is as a company.
They're pretty vertically integrated in they make everything. They make everything. They make cells for a lot of companies. They build cars for a lot of companies. They are for an automotive company, they are massive. But they're not an automotive company, are they? They're an everything company.
Well, they're an everything company, yeah. But they're huge. I don't think people anywhere in the world appreciate how large BYD is as a company itself. It's immensely massive. I mean, even just the number of units of cars they sell,
you've got to remember, China has a lot of cars. You know, much bigger than Europe, much bigger than the US, and they make a lot. You know, buses, cars, batteries, the whole lot.
They just crossed over 39 million new energy vehicles, I think, on the roads. Total. I mean, stacked up, but that's not bad, is it? Right. Hey, Tom, you made it. To the end. I thought we might lose you if I start talking about cars you can't get yet. I thought you would start to doze off after being away.
I'm starting to doze. No sleep in I'm going like 32 hours now, I think. So
man,
we made it.
You did it. We made it. Thank you so much for joining us. You didn't have to do this, but thank you. The audience appreciate it.
Love getting together, and it was glad that you brought Nick on this week. It was always good to see Nick.
Absolutely. Nick, people can check out your channel. You do more than just EV stuff on your channel, right? You got a whole bunch of things that people can check out. More recently, because you had a heat pump installed at home, just show our viewers before we head off, your heat pump video. What's this one? 126,000 views on this video. Like, people are super into the technology around EVs, home batteries, storage, and your content about, you know, electrifying your home is doing really well as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I've kind of moved away a little bit from the EV stuff because it's my day job and I was trying to keep myself interested. So yeah, I do everything now from solar, the EV chargers. I cover EV chargers over here to some detail, not the same detail that great old Tom does, but I've got some really interesting sort of energy side videos, renewable videos, stuff on the heat pump from Octopus. I've sent you a very interesting text message before, Martin, with a cable I'll be testing this week, which will scare a lot of people, especially electricians. But yeah, I try to keep everything around sort of the green renewable, industry. So it's not just cars; it's a mix of all kind of renewables that will, reduce your carbon footprint.
Yep. And go check out Nick's channel for a bunch of stuff about electrifying and decarbonising your whole life. Well, chaps, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be on our merry way. Thanks for watching and joining in and taking part in the show. As always, we need you in the comments, and we'd love to see you after the show as well. A ton of comments on last week when perhaps I was a little tough on the Tesla Cybertruck, and I'm sure there'll be a ton of comments this when I'm Tesla's biggest fan. Hey, what can I say? I'm fickle. Deal with it. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, and if you hit subscribe, also tap the bell icon for notifications. You won't miss a show that we do. Thank you very much for joining. Oh, I've just realised, Nick, you have an Italian heritage, don't you? Nick, will you please say ciao?
Ciao.
Could have got a bit better than